Okay, we are live.
Yay!
All right, so that we can start getting credit for our discussion. So we start with chapter 1 and 18.
Yes.
Okay. Shall we take turns reading the questions?
Sure. I guess I should find them.
The first one is a little funny for me because it didn't really convince me of anything. It says, as you read about the history of outreach family life education, in what capacity do you see yourself getting involved with strengthening marriages and families through FLE? And I want to be a counselor when I grow up. So
I think that's great.
but that's not really FLE, that's counseling.
Right.
The reading was drawing the distinction. So I think probably my family life education stuff will probably be like through callings. I could see myself doing that. Or
Yeah.
a little volunteer time here and there.
I think a lot of if you can learn about FLE, that you can apply it a lot of places in your life, like
Oh,
calling, volunteering, even volunteering at schools for kids and stuff. I think once you learn some principles, then you can apply them in all areas of your life.
yeah.
So I
Definitely.
think even as being a counselor, you'll still be using a lot of the things to teach people, methods or whatever.
Mm-hmm. That's true. There's an education aspect to counseling. I don't know everything about counseling yet, so I'm sure I'll learn more ways it could apply.
You know what you want to be when you grow up.
Yeah, already. Crazy, man. It only took
So
me
I
40
think,
years.
well, I still don't know. So anyway,
Did you find the question?
yeah, I did.
Okay,
Okay, so did we answer that one?
I think so.
Yeah. All right. As mentioned in the text, there is a tremendous need for scholarly family life education to be taken to masses, especially groups or audiences that are at great risk for experiencing family and societal problems. What specific strengths, abilities, and expertise do you have that would enable you to play a role in taking family life education to these undeserved groups that often need family life education the most? There's a lot to that question. I don't. So, one of the things I was thinking about as I was doing this was that I don't feel like I have expertise in any area
Yeah.
or training, which is, I guess, one of the things I'm hoping to get out of this class is some training and some confidence to be an expert in something. But I think I was trying to think, so a few years ago, I took a parenting class that the school district offered. And one thing I remember about the teacher is that she was really personable and I liked her. And I think that's important when you're trying to teach people, is that you can relate to them and have that personable, to trust, I guess, to trust that they're teaching you the best, or you know what I mean?
Well, I think something we both got in our favor is that we both have kids. We
Yeah.
both have experienced marriage. Um, and so I think that really helps get you some credibility. And maybe that might give you more credibility, especially with the underserved groups, than having like a degree or a certificate. Sometimes that sort of expertise is kind of untrusted, and real practical experience holds more clout. I'd say it holds a lot of clout with everybody, but especially people who may not have the same level of education. They might be a little distrustful of it. And I think, just being relatable, like you were saying, and having real life experience will help. Okay, so number 3, in chapter 18, the need for program rigor is stressed. As stated, FLE programs must be grounded in the best current scholarship if they are to enjoy credibility. Unfortunately, there are too many family life resources available in communities with questionable scientific foundations. Why is it so critical that you draw upon literature with a strong theoretical or research-based foundation when teaching family life education for your practicum project? I think basically because 2 reasons. One, we don't want to lead people astray. You have some power as when you're presenting these classes because you're looked upon as an expert and you're presenting things to people who are looking for guidance. They might act on the things you tell them. That's kind of the goal, is that they do. So you want to make sure you're giving them things that are actually helpful, that are proven to be helpful. And secondly, because I think we represent BYU Idaho, we represent family life education programs in general, and so we want to give help and research that is actually credible, will work, and can be proven.
Oh, I definitely agree with all of that. And I think it's important to have, like you were talking about, the credibility, and I think that scientifically based information gives you that credibility because you have something to back up what you're saying. So
Right.
I think, that's why. There's a lot of he said, she said, or grandma said, blah, blah, blah. But I think when you have the scientific based things behind you, then that helps. Okay, go dress
Right. And it can be a good 1-2 punch if you have the scientific stuff on one hand and personal experience on the other, then you've really got something.
Yeah, and like the reading was talking about how a lot of people have their own ideas or their own how did it say that they've already decided on certain things. So I think if you have some scientific stuff to back you up, that can help change minds if they are thinking the wrong way.
That's a really good point. Because there does have to be enough of a motivation to try something, to change their mind.
Yeah.
And evidence.
Yeah.
And evidence. Chapter 2.
Yes, let's.
We're zipping along.
It'd be nice if all of these questions were right together.
Yeah, I just copied and pasted.
Well, that was smart of you.
Once in a while I have a little glimmer here and there.
I'll do that for next time, and then I'll be... Okay, so the outline that we did, are we supposed to turn that in somewhere?
I don't think so. I think it's just pop there.
Okay. Right? All right. As you read this chapter on marketing, what thoughts or insights did you have about marketing family life education?
So the chapter.
Am I in the wrong one?
There's a chapter 2 in the middle.
I missed that one.
No.
Hold on. Was that last week or this week?
last week. There's
All
like
right, let
three.
me go back.
My daughter's trying to cut the dryer and doesn't know how. What kind of a mother am I?
You're a good mother.
Gosh, thanks.
Let's see. Oh, these ones. Family life education works to prevent problems. That?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there it is. Family life education works to prevent problems or issues from occurring, or they work to prevent problems from escalating. As highlighted in Chapter 2, there are 3 levels of prevention: primary, secondary, and tertiary. And however, that is not the one that I think I am on board with. When you think about the family life education,
Where you sit on your hiney, I think.
yeah, you would like to provide, whether now or in the future, what level of prevention most closely corresponds with your interests. So the first one was just providing education, right? And then the second one was working with some people that were showing signs. And then the third one, that's like more like what you want to do with the counseling.
Well, it's people who would be in counseling along with the family life education.
Yeah.
Like just the education is not going to be enough for those people.
So I think for me, I'm getting my eyes up because I should have done that earlier. I feel like for this class, I'm definitely more on the primary level. Like I want it to be educational, but I'm definitely not qualified to teach at the third level.
Yeah.
But like as we've been talking and like the goals that we set, I definitely think they're more in line with the primary level, especially since we were targeting people who are generally, well, when we were doing, before we changed our plan of attack.
Yeah.
It's like people that are good parents that just really want a little more extra support, which is what the primary one is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when I came into the class, I was thinking more along the lines of secondary or tertiary, and then Sister Bill really talked me out of that when she talked about the workshop option and how much more straightforward it was. So that definitely brought me down to primary. But my end goals in the future are to be in that tertiary level.
Yeah. And I think probably like where I am right now, and I really don't know what I'm going to do when I graduate other than, so it's probably really more along the lines of primary. Like I was talking to my Relief Society president at a football game the other day. Our sons were playing each other, and she was telling me about how in ward council they've been talking about maybe getting a parenting Sunday school class started, and they were talking about different people that could be teaching a parenting. And I had told her that we were doing a parenting workshop, and she's like, "Oh, I could totally put your name in to be the parenting Sunday school teacher." And I was like, "What? Oh, I don't really want that calling." But anyway, so like I'm sure I can probably see myself more on the primary level, even maybe in the future, but it could change.
Yeah.
Who knows? But
I mean, I think it's because you like, maybe it's because I've experienced some of those tertiary great deal of distress levels that, it scares me a little less. Like you start going to like support groups and stuff, and everybody's in a great deal of distress, but you learn how to kind of settle down with it a little bit, and then it's not scary anymore, I guess. And not having to feel like you're the expert in it is also helpful. But when you are the expert, that's a little scarier.
That is true.
So maybe that's why I didn't feel like it would be such a big deal to take on something like pornography or that kind of a thing as a topic for our workshop. But I'm glad that we kind of talked me out of that with that first meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. So the second question is, when teaching family life education, what are some potential problems if an educator slides into providing therapeutic remediation? What we were just talking about, what if they're not really an expert?
Right there. Then you get into that problem of, well, this is what I think. And if you're in a setting where they are taking you as the expert and you're just giving an opinion and there's no scientific proof behind it, then that can create a problem.
Yeah. Also, why doing the workshop option and having like now planned a lesson plan, where we're not really going to do questions.
Yeah.
We're just going to do whatever.
It is not in my plan, so go ask the bishop. Let him screw it up.
Yeah. You could probably get sued or something too if like oh, I thought she was a therapist. That could be.
Yeah. I'm no therapist. I'm just a student.
Yeah. Legal on top of ethical issues there probably.
Yeah. So I think really that's probably the biggest problem, is that you can get off track if you don't stay on your lesson plan and cause problems. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, all right. Stage 1, problem analysis, has to do with identifying the problem or the need that the educator seeks to address through the FLE program. Why is it so critical to be thorough in identifying the problem or need of a target audience? Moreover, how does one go about identifying these problems and needs? See page 32 to 33 and especially 36.
Okay, I've got quite a few notes on this one. I said one was just sociocultural relevance. If you don't know your audience, you could be just teaching something that they just don't even need or don't want, or could be they could have resistance to, just because of the way you're presenting it if you don't know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
I've got community buy-in, that if you understand the needs of the target audience, you'll get more support.
Yeah.
I also found wasteful spending of prevention dollars, because you, like I said, you could be teaching something they don't even need. You could have put a lot of money into putting together the workshop, into presenting materials and stuff, and maybe it's not even serving the people you're trying to help. So,
right.
They also talked about how it can help you identify the most pressing needs that might be less noticeable. Like they talked about like a high school where they thought the problem was, I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was like drug use, and it ended up that teen pregnancy was the bigger concern. But they didn't know it until they did the surveys and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I said, if you don't take into account the life experience of the audience, you alienate them.
Yeah.
Like if you're talking down to them, they're not really going to listen to you, and you don't know if you're talking down to them unless you get to know them before you start.
Mm-hmm. So I, along with those that you put, I also put that you have to know, like if you know the needs of your audience, then that will help you in the direction that you can take. Like if you don't know the needs, then you don't have a way to like narrow it down to what you want to teach and what you want to accomplish. So it helps you go in the direction you want to go, and it helps you, I think it helps you with your goals, your overall arching goals. And then I think it also helps in your research to find the scientific backing to be able to teach.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a good point. Totally directionless if you don't know your audience.
yeah, and I mean, like you said, it does. You have to connect with your audience, and if you can't connect with them, then pretty much it's pointless to even do the workshop or the program or anything like that.
Right. I like the other example they gave of like teaching work and home balance, and how that's going to be one thing if you're teaching to people who live in a rural community. It's going to mean something totally different if you're teaching that to someone who lives in an urban community.
Yeah,
So this
yeah, definitely.
can just have a completely different direction depending on your audience.
Yeah.
Number 4 says, is that what we're on?
Yeah.
Program design has to do with consulting the target audience in order to assess their specific and unique needs. And your program goals will be directly related to these needs. Having said this, conducting a thorough assessment is beyond the scope of our family practicum. However, it's an important and needed component to the success of the education you provide for your practicum. What are some simplified ways you could assess and respond to the specific needs of those you work with for your practicum? So I said, I thought we could kind of do, I made some notes about the kinds of needs. There's felt needs, ascribed needs, and future needs. There's different learning objectives, knowledge, caring, and application. And I thought some things we could do, we could kind of do informal focus groups to look at the needs of our group. You know, if you just happen to be sitting with your Relief Society president at a football game, and she says there's a need for parenting classes in the ward, then, you know, you've got some insight there that maybe we should listen to.
Right.
Or, you know, if you happen to be a mommy group and kind of throw out some ideas and see how people respond, I think that's a good idea. Also, since our focus group is kind of our peer group in a lot of ways, we've got, you know, some personal insight there. Maybe it's not a bad idea to like purposely consult with the Relief Society president or the bishop or, you know, someone who needs are in the ward. Take it to the visiting teaching.
Tell me, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think another reason to consult your audience is like, I know what I need in my life or what I need, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what everyone else around me needs. So
True.
I mean, if I spent my whole time planning something that I needed, it's not necessarily going to be good for other people around me.
Right. Well, the other
So I
thing
think go ahead.
The other thing I put is that we can consult the research and say, well, research says that most people need help in this area, and base our needs off of that.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Now we get into the marketing part.
Oh, good.
Yay!
That one was a little more fun.
Yeah, it was.
I don't think my husband's putting kids in.
Like the very last question in this section, I felt like it wasn't even in the reading, so I'm interested to see what you thought about that one. But
Well, let me get there. Reflective questions. Since I already started that one. Ugh, my computer's being super slow today. It's tired.
poor tired.
All right.
Not nearly tired as you would be by the end of tomorrow, though.
Yeah, right? All right, chapter 16. as you read this chapter on marketing, what thoughts or insights did you have about marketing family life education? So one of the thoughts I had was about, like we talked earlier, was about providing childcare for people to come to the class, and I think that would be a good thing to market. It also talks a lot about marketing, like word of mouth, and getting it out, that's sometimes more effective to spread the word by word of mouth. I also think social media can be a really powerful way to market, and I don't think it really talked a lot about social media, but but I think that's definitely, it can reach a lot of people that way.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to be fun, because nobody wants to, like, if it's just boring and drab, then I think people will just brush it off.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if it's fun and exciting, then people are more likely to, like, oh yeah, I think, that's why I think it's important to have a fun, catchy title for people, stuff like that.
You have to have a topic first for that, though.
Yes, you do have to have a topic.
Well, if it's boring and drab, especially with these family life topics, it can be, you have to be careful not to be guilt inducing. Like, they're kind of touchy shame subjects. How good is your marriage, and what kind of a parent are you? And if you don't make it fun, you run the risk of just triggering shame, and so people don't tune in.
Yeah, definitely.
Marketing isn't necessarily like the first thing I want to do. It's not why I studied marriage and family studies, is so that I could do marketing. But as I've read this part of the reading, what I wrote down is this: if helping people is important, then marketing is important. Because if you don't market, there's nobody coming for you to help.
That's very true.
The other thing I wrote that was interesting was that part of having a quality program is the behaviors that we want participants to adapt. So our quality needs to be focused on what behaviors we want them to adapt. That's where people will look for quality. And I hadn't really put that together quite that succinctly. We talked about this a little bit before about the cost, that we need to minimize the cost of it to the participants. And that's not just like how much we charge, that's like how hard is it to come, how much of their time are we taking. And then up the emotional and psychological benefits, really weigh out that cost benefit thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, the other thing I put down is that to get people's buy-in, they need to believe that the performance of the behavior that we want people to perform is consistent with their value system and self-image and social norms. So if the behavior we want them to demonstrate is coming to our class, part of our marketing should be coming to this class is consistent with your value system and self-image. That's kind of like the message we need to send to them. Like good parents classes. Successful marriages are ones where you go to classes.
Right. Everybody's doing it.
Or willing to work on each other or whatever. So that's what I have.
Yeah, no, that's all. Those are definitely all good things to think about.
My turn to read the question. As you've probably noticed, the emphasis on assessing and understanding the specific needs of the target audience is a theme that comes up over and over in the text. Why is this an important aspect of marketing? I wrote down the bit that it said about in business, if you could ignore your consumer, then the business soon dies.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do the same thing, that we can expect our programs to have a similar fate.
Yeah, I put Where is it? It's a lot like what we were talking about before, that it's pointless to even have a program if you don't really know the needs. And as soon as you know the needs, then you can market to those needs. So it really is important that you know the needs.
Mm-hmm. This next question's fun.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever tried to market a product before, even if the product was as simple as selling lemonade at a lemonade stand? If so, what was the product and what did you learn about marketing? What worked? What didn't work? What would you change to market more effectively? Lastly, what important lessons did you learn that could be applied to marketing family life education? So as I was thinking about this and writing stuff down, I was thinking about how like if you try and do a lemonade stand in the middle of winter, it just doesn't fly because nobody wants lemonade in the middle of winter. But if you did hot chocolate, then you want it, which I guess it comes back to knowing the needs too. Like if you're
Yeah.
gonna market a parenting class at BYU Idaho, probably, I mean, there are some parents there, but mostly, there's not a lot of parents. And so it's one of those things that you have to know what's needed so that you can market the correct way and the right way and to the right people.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I question made me think about my days as a scrapbook lady. I used to sell Close to My Heart scrapbook supplies. And the key there, well, there were a few things that were effective. One was for gifts. Everyone wants free stuff. The other one was making it more of an experience than a selling opportunity. Like creating an opportunity for them to create something, then they'd buy stuff just so that they could come and have that experience. Um, so I think from that you learn that keeping things really hands-on and having quality is going to be important. And just kind of marketing an experience more than a product. As far as free stuff, I don't know. I guess the whole shop's free. We talked about doing refreshments and babysitting; those are free.
Yes. Well, and I think one thing too is that you have to market more than one way. Like a lot of places don't just have a billboard out, but there's a billboard and a commercial and a radio ad, and so it's lots of different ways. It's not just, okay, I'm just gonna stand on the corner and say free workshop, but I mean, you could put out a sign on the corner that says free workshop this night at this place or whatever, but it's also talking to people and putting it on Facebook and, announcing it in Relief Society and Elders Quorum and Primary, all these different ways that you have that you need to take advantage of to market and just do it more than just one way.
That's a really good point. That's a very, very good point. I think a lot of times, like for church stuff, they'll stick a poster in the lobby, but then if you don't hear the announcements and if your friends aren't talking about it, that poster in the lobby just might not get you. But if you've got multiple things, then you're more likely to. That's a really good point.
Yeah. So that was one thing when I was PTA president. That was one thing I remember doing, is that we were having a fundraiser and you'd send out emails and then you'd send flyers home and then you'd like put it on the Facebook page and then you'd announce it in the morning so the kids and tell your parents, and it was all these different reminders and ways that this is what's happening to let people know.
Yeah. One marketing flop I saw happen at church was kind of funny. They had a fireside going on and they invited Michael McLean to come up to Spokane. And he's come a couple of times, like every couple years it seems like he'd come for a little while there.
Uh-huh.
And this time when he came, it was kind of announced, but it was sort of like to the wards, it was sort of announced, oh, we really want to save these seats for the singles ward people. And the singles ward people, it was really announced, well, this is kind of more a fireside for the youth, but if you want to come, you can. And so nobody really felt like they were invited. Even though the announcement was being made, nobody felt like it pertained to them. And so everyone was being so polite that like almost nobody showed up. They didn't even fill up the chapel. And it was Michael McLean, and he'd come all the way. And like I didn't go because I thought I wasn't really supposed to. And apparently he said something about just how very humbling that was.
Nobody. Oh, that's kind of embarrassing for like everybody involved.
Totally embarrassing.
Well, and I think another flop, like thinking about that, like there's sometimes in my ward where they have a ward activity, but I don't find out about it until like 2 days before. And it's kind of like, oh, well, I have other, plans. So I think that can be a marketing flop too, is not giving enough notice or enough time to people so that they can plan it into their schedules.
Right. That is, and that'll be a tricky one for us too, because we have to get everything approved. We got to get it all cleared before we can actually present. So
yeah. So that is going to be a tricky one for us.
But we'll have to. I mean, people aren't going to be able to come last minute unless we just like have 3 of our friends coming.
Yay for friends that will show up to support you.
I'll bring you cookies.
I know.
I'll give you cookies Friday.
Brownies, please come.
Oh gosh.
Whoa.
So I forgot who's reading.
I'll read it. I don't remember. For those completing the workshop option, you will need to market your workshop. To do this, it is often helpful to draw upon existing structures or connections that are already in place. What existing organizations, groups, or services within your community could you tap into help get the word out about your workshop? Or what connections do you have that you could utilize to help market your family life education program? Which I feel like we've talked about this already, like especially since we're targeting LDS people, that we'll have our bishops and our Relief Society presidents, to help. And I think using that, like my ward they send out like a ward email, like for Sunday school, like this is the Sunday school lesson, and it goes out to the whole ward. So using like LDS tools to be able to email, I think is a great, a tool that we have at our disposal. Social media, like my ward has a Facebook page, so that's a great tool.
Yeah, definitely. I thought also, like making sure to use like the primary and the young women's to make announcements in those places so that it kind of gets to everybody.
Because those places often get forgotten.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Especially since I'm in young women's, I know they get forgotten.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that like handbills, I think might get us more notice than posters in hallways. Posters in hallways are a good thing, but not the handbills seem to go a little better.
Yeah.
I was also thinking conversational value I wrote down.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like anybody who asks me about how's school going, or the people talking, and I think doing social media posts can make a conversation out of it. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
The next one. Duncan and Goddard describe various approaches to family life education. What approach do you subscribe to, and why this approach? So the approaches I wrote down were expert, facilitator, critical inquirer, collaborator, interventionalist, and eclectic. And I definitely say eclectic is the best approach. I think collaborator is probably a real good approximation of where we'll be. But you got to have a little bit of interventionalist in there too to really produce some change. we are kind of coming from an expert approach to a great extent, just because we have a curriculum set, we're presenting it. But if you don't acknowledge your audience in any way, you're just not going to be real effective. So you've got to have a little bit of facilitator in there too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's good to mix it up and do a lot of all of it. Like I don't know that one approach is the right thing to do, you know, the right way to do it. So I think it's good to have a bunch of different approaches, and I think that you'll reach different people doing different approaches too.
Yeah, definitely. I want to just keep people's interests. You know, if they know you're always going to just stand up there and lecture, you're just going to hit that same note all the time, then they'll turn off. But
which is why I really like the eclectic approach, because it does take from all of the different ones. But like it does depend on the situation and what you're doing, you know, the setting that you're in, about which one would be the best. Because I don't think it would be good to take the eclectic approach all the time. Like there's a time and a place for each one.
For sure.
Okay. What are your beliefs about the purpose or role of the family? How does family life education tie in with your beliefs about the purpose of the family? Well, I think the whole idea behind family life education is to strengthen family and to make it stronger. And coming from a gospel perspective where family is central to the whole reason we're here on earth, I think it ties in perfectly with that, with the gospel. It's like hand in hand.
For sure. I think it's the whole reason we're here spiritually. It's also the cornerstone of a building block of nations and civilization. And I feel like so many of our problems as a nation tie back to problems at home. You know, we need strong citizens. Good people come from good homes. That's still the best source of good humans, right? It's a good home. So if we make the family stronger, we make the citizenry stronger, we make our nation stronger. And I believe a strong nation is important. Gives
to
everybody. I think it's important. That's how it ties in. What are the values or beliefs that provide guidance as you work with people, whether providing family life education or in some other capacity? I wrote down all the ones that they gave in the appendix. I think just if I were to simplify, I mean, they've got a pretty extensive, that was a pretty thorough listing of values and beliefs. I would say as I work with people and provide family life education, the guiding value is that everyone's a child of God and that everyone has divine potential. I mean, that kind of is the essence of it. There's worth in everybody. Everybody's capable of change and becoming greater because that's their destiny. And trying to look at people in that way, knowing what they're capable of becoming, is important as an educator.
Yeah, I put like along that lines, I think agency, like you can't force what you believe onto other people, that you have to respect that they can make their own choices and that you can educate them and tell them what science says this is the best, this is, you know, but you still have to respect whatever decisions that they make.
Okay. That's an important one, and that's a really hard one sometimes.
Yes.
It's easy to live by that one.
Yes.
Now, this is the one I didn't see anything in the reading about motivation.
Yeah.
So, like, is that
Yeah.
all just personal feeling here?
What is needed to motivate people and what? Yeah, I don't remember reading anything about what role do you play in the motivation process.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that, I think it comes back to agency, is that we can be there to give them as much information as we can and solid, credible information, but it's still up to them to act on it. Like, we can't force anybody. We can encourage them as much as we can, but it's really up to them to take the information that we give them and use it or not use it. So
Yeah.
I mean, really, I think that's what it comes down to. That we can do our best and we can make it exciting and, encourage them to practice it and use it. But it comes down to what, if they're going to do it or not. We can't force them to do it.
Right.
I think if we give them homework or whatever, that will maybe some of a motivation to put it into practice, but we can't force anybody.
Right. I think if we pay attention to that benefit balance, that we can weigh things in the direction of motivation. And I think keeping it grounded in research is motivation, because you see there's a high promise of reward if there's evidence of it in the research. I think staying away from shaming is really important to being motivating. You have to be conscious of that some of these topics might be touchier than we even realize for some people. So staying away from shaming in any way. I hope I kind of actually hope that this question is like actually supposed to be in another chapter, because I would like to learn more about motivating people.
Right? Yeah.
Sounds like an important thing to learn, but I don't have anything.
I think like as you were saying, I think staying positive is always more motivating than being negative. So I think positiveness is always like staying away from the shaming. So as long as you're staying positive and encouraging, that's definitely more motivating than the negative stuff.
On that line, they did talk about like a strength-based approach a little bit in there, I think. Building on what exists and showing people what they're already doing right and building from there.
Yeah.
That would be more motivational.
Yeah.
Then, so I kind of saw that in some of the therapy groups I've been in, where people were like, well, I guess what I learned today is I do everything wrong. So I just need to take my first instinct and then always do the opposite, and then I'll always do the right thing. And that's maybe not the most motivational feeling to walk away with.
Right.
So something more like, well, look, this is what you do right. Build on that. It might be more helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, that is our last question. So I guess we can stop the broadcast.
Right.